Alright, so we're going to be presenting our unusual task presentation, and it will be presented by Haley, Angela, and Karan. So in terms of content, we'll be having the day one analysis, what basically went down day one, and comparing it to concepts that we learned in class, along with the day two analysis. And then we'll be having each of our own personal opinions on what happened during those days and how we perceived them.
Okay, so as part of the day one task, I picked out two of the activities that we did, and the two that mainly stuck out for me were the handshake task, and that really showed how everyone acted in their body language as to whether you're a leader or a follower. Leaders had a very strong base, they were very confident in how they acted, and they were generally the people that sort of stuck their hand out first as they were trying to take the handshake and take control of the situation. Whereas followers, they were generally looking down and sort of being almost more intimidated. This, I think, is quite a general overview of how organisational behaviour is linked into. It covers all of them. I mean, you could argue that it's to do with the Belbin test. So you've got like the action people who are more confident, more implementing, and people that are followers and like team workers, and it sort of reinforces those roles. But also it could be to do with things like the facial recognition, so wood and metal are going to be more taking control of things, whereas water are going to be less confrontational almost. So that's what we think about day one. Okay. As continued on from that again, we did a group task where we had to draw a picture as all together, and this really reinforced the Belbin test and sort of how everyone broke up into their individual parts. So you always had the person that was very in control of the group, and they were the ones that really made not necessarily the definitive decisions, but they were the ones that put forward the most ideas, and then that was reinforced by other members of the team. Especially things like the cerebral roles were really obvious, because they were trying to say, okay, well, this is your idea, but this is how we can do this, and they were a bit more creative within that, and then reinforcing what it was that they wanted to do. And I think this definitely, again, was just really reinforcing that. And there was a lot of conflict resolution, so when two leaders were kind of clashing a little bit, there were then the other team members that sort of balanced it out, and it sort of kept it all quite friendly, and there was a lot of active participation and like real communication, and there didn't seem to be very many, especially in my group, there didn't seem to be very many communication barriers or issues even within sort of Erasmus students and the local students. Everyone was quite communicative, even if they didn't quite understand everything that was going on. It was all very, very well explained, and again, it reinforced trust and just how everyone got to work together.
The second day had a few things that highlighted some of the individual personalities, such as the MBTI and the face recognition. So it included the monster activity, the symbol presentation, and like the repetitive actions, and it really showed that the people who were more they were more extroverted, and they were more like the thinkers and the judgers. They really seemed to like go into the activities and be very proactive and always be the leaders, but they also had a tendency to question the actions more, which really highlighted some of the judgers. They always seemed to be questioning the teachers' motives and challenging them. There was also times when the more intuitive people really took the actions to heart. They would listen, they would like really modify their actions based on the teacher's critiques. Also the face patterns, like the guardians, or like the metal, the wood, the stronger faces really were the ones who took more action. They were the ones who really like were more competitive. Like, for example, Ben was one who was really competitive in the monster activity. He has a very like wooden face. But the water people kind of more like went with the flow. They were like a little bit more the jokesters, and they didn't take all the activities as seriously. Teamwork also played a really big role in the days. We had the chair game, the product presentation, where we had to create a product and present it, and also the human knot. The human knot was a good example, and the chair game were good examples for action-oriented people, such as like the plant and the more coordinator really took charge, but it didn't always lead to the most productive things. So, for example, in the chair game, we had an instance where he let us create our own strategy, spend 5 minutes on our own strategy, but because there were so many people like the plants and the coordinators where they were just taking control, that there wasn't enough opportunity for like the more cerebral roles to really get their voice out in the open. But as soon as we were given like a chance to rearrange the chairs, like people who were more creative and were actually given the opportunity to speak, they really like showed their signs. A good example of this is in the product presentation. You could tell that some roles had really creative people and they had really creative ideas, but their presentations were a little bit they were less organized. So you could tell that their group may have lacked an action-oriented person who would have helped the group finish and maintain time management skills, but they did have the high cerebral roles. Also, we had a big example of cultural differences in the class, and because we have such a wide range of cultures, and that also kind of happened on more of an individual level too. For example, the power index, there are people who were more committed to really displaying that they were in charge, and it was harder for them to take control of the teacher or to like really lower themselves and be more respectful to the other students. There were also people who were more individualistic, such as like the Americans or the Northern European students, who really just kind of did their own thing, and they were more willing to work with other people, but they didn't necessarily put their trust in other people, whereas the Spanish kids really like formed like close bonds and really liked working with their peers. This also plays into collectivism within these circles, and there was also masculinity and femininity played a big role in the activities, where some of the men were more competitive, and also there was like a big uncertainty avoidance where the teacher put us in these really awkward conditions, but we didn't, like people who didn't know how to understand were a little bit more hesitant.
Okay, so now we're going to go into our personal opinion of what we thought and how the day went. I thought it was really useful to show the different personality types and give it like a serious base to the theories that we'd learned. So things like the Belbin test, where you've got the 3 different roles. It really showed how they interacted with each other and how different people have different ways of being what they are, and also that you can have like a mix of a really good mix of people within a team that you don't necessarily know which their personality type is, but just through working with them you almost fall into a role, which is really useful to then apply what we've learnt to these situations. The one that really struck me was how the handshake task showed us the leader-follower differences at a subconscious level. I don't necessarily go into a situation knowing that I'm going to be the leader, but I will instinctively take charge, which was really great. And also that there were differences between the dominant leader and the submissive leader. So 2 people may both be naturally leaders, but you still get one that is stronger, so you do get the leader and follower role within that. It was, again, really realistic to what we'd be doing within the business world. However, I do think, as has been said a lot of times, that this could have been done ever so slightly earlier, and we could almost have done 2 tasks, where we'd done one at the beginning of the year to become like as like an icebreaker, and then a second task after we'd learnt the theory to then apply the theory to what it is that we're doing. Okay.
Alright, in terms of my personal opinion, I thought it was a very good interpretation of the business world. I really liked the handshaking game too, because in terms of perceiving and what you actually are, many people might perceive themselves to be a leader, but in terms of, if you look at this activity, you might be going and thinking that, you're the dominant handshaker, but you really aren't. And they'll call you out for it. I remember when I was going up there, I was told I was not the dominant one in one of them, and I realized I thought I was, but I wasn't. So there's a really good idea of like what is perceived and what is real. And I also really like the the hand clapping game, because it was very strategic, because you couldn't clap your hands in the air 4 times. So it was very good to see how people's minds worked in terms of how they would get their hands to be clapped within the allotted time that they had in the air. So. In terms of just the class structure, it was a nice change of pace. Instead of having to sit in a room for 3 hours, I thought it was much better to get up on our feet and then maybe apply these into the business world, apply them to games. So it helped, show us where we were actually. And also, we got to talk to other people that we normally wouldn't, because a lot of these activities, they even told us to go up to people that we normally wouldn't talk to. And in the business world, that's what usually happens. You don't really know these people. This is the first time you're going to talk to them. So it's a very, stressful time. And also, it was just a really fun activity.
And Karan said, I also agreed that it was very important because it really presented the messages in a creative way. A lot of us have heard this stuff before in class or in other modes, but it was very creative and very interesting, and it really helped the message sink in. It also really promoted introspection. The teachers are always asking us, like, why are we doing these things? Like, analyzing our behavior, and it made us analyze our behavior, such as in the handshaking or in the presentation. Like, we knew how to stand, how to face the audience. And that was another thing that we did the symbol game, and he really taught us some important tricks to like really garner attention from our peers, such as like stand and look everyone in the eye before you start speaking. And it really encouraged the importance of teamwork and understanding. We really learned how the different types of people engage with each other and different types of cultures and stuff. And it was a controlled and fun environment that really helped promote this understanding, so that like we're not just being thrown into the business world and trying to figure out people's different personality types or their different types of teamwork structure or their cultural differences. We were really able to analyze it and have fun and get to know everyone all at the same time. This activity provided many examples of things we learned in class. It was fun, interesting, and engaging, and it really encouraged participation and understanding, and it demonstrated important real-world situations. We want to thank you for your attention.
Thank you.